So, what if the rules that run our world weren't just made up? What if they weren't social agreements, but actual fundamental laws of physics? Today, we're diving into a pretty mind bending idea that reframes governance not as something humans invented, but as a physical reality that's woven right into the fabric of the universe itself.
And this is the core axiom from the Global Institute of Logic and Cybernetics, or GILC. You see, they're arguing our whole approach has been completely backward. Instead of trying to force our man-made laws onto the world, we should be discovering and aligning with the natural laws of order that are already there, humming away in the background of reality. Okay, so if governance is physics, what's the big deal? What problem is this actually solving? Well, the issue is a deep, fundamental flaw in pretty much all of our current systems, a flaw we can finally put a name to. That failure, it's called semantic decoherence. And here's a way to think about it. Imagine you're trying to navigate a raging, constantly changing river, but all you have is a printed, static map. The map isn't changing, but the river sure is. That fatal mismatch, that's semantic decoherence. Our laws are the static map, and reality is that dynamic, flowing river. And this disconnect, it doesn't just create a little confusion. It actively generates chaos and decay in our society. It's entropy. This chart just lays out the shift perfectly. We're moving from a social construct to a physical phenomenon. We're going from static text to dynamic fields. But the real game changer is that third line. We're replacing the messy, unpredictable nature of political discretion with the absolute certainty of semantic resonance. We're literally trading chaos for order, entropy for coherence. All right, so if we're going to build a system of governance on physics, we first have to ask, what are we building it on? What is the actual ground floor of reality? Well, according to this theory, it's definitely not the empty space we might picture in our heads. This new foundation is called the Realica vacuum, and you gotta forget what you know about the word vacuum. This isn't emptiness, it's more like a perfectly structured, perfectly tuned crystal or a massive musical instrument. It's a vibrant, geometric space where everything exists and interacts based on rules of harmony and resonance. And flowing through this resonant vacuum is the absolute key to everything, the Kushipasa field, or just the KP field. Now, this is the big one. It's a universal field that doesn't just carry energy, like, say, a magnetic field. It also carries information or meaning. At every single point in space, energy and meaning are fundamentally, physically linked. Now, I know what you're thinking when an equation pops up, but stick with me, because the idea here is actually beautiful. All it's saying is that the state of the KP field at any point is its raw energy, that's E, multiplied by its semantic weight, its meaning, that's S. And because they're multiplied, they are totally inseparable. You cannot have energy without meaning, and you can't have meaning without energy. This unity is the bedrock of this entire model. So that's the theory. But how does it actually work? How does this foundation change anything in the real world? Well, this is where we get to ditch the old, clunky idea of legality and embrace the physics of validity. The key is replacing legality with validity. So an action, let's say passing a new law, isn't checked against some dusty book of statutes. No. Instead, it's almost played into the physical field like a musical note. If that note is in harmony with the field, if it resonates, it's valid. If it's dissonant and creates noise, it's not. Simple as that. And of course, there's a mathematical test for that harmony. Again, don't worry about the symbols here. All this is saying is that the resonance of an action has to be greater than a certain minimum threshold of coherence. If it passes, it's valid. If it doesn't, it fails. And that's not a legal opinion. It's a physical law. And this is where the implications get absolutely profound. An action that doesn't align with the field, an action that's incoherent or illegitimate or just plain harmful, isn't just illegal. It becomes physically impossible to carry out. The system, the physics of reality, just won't allow it to happen. I mean, just pause and really think about that for a second. What if things like corruption or the violation of fundamental rights or systemic decay weren't just against the rules, but were literally against the laws of physics? That's the incredible promise of a governance system that's grounded in reality. Okay, so we've got the core mechanism, but what does a whole civilization built on these ideas actually look like? Now we can move from that tiny mechanism to the grand architecture of an entire society. Whoa, okay, I know. This chart has a lot of new terms. Don't sweat it. You don't need to memorize any of this. The single most important takeaway here is that every core function of a society, identity, knowledge, even how it evolves, is grounded in a specific, measurable, physical process. Let's just look at a couple of these to make it a bit more real. So let's start with identity. In this system, your identity isn't a password or a social security number. It's something called scroll DNA. And the best way to think of it is like your own unique, unchangeable musical note that you are constantly broadcasting into the KP field. It's not data that can be stolen or a fingerprint that can be copied. It's a fundamental signature of your existence, which makes it absolutely impossible to fake.
And this is the math that makes it work. It's basically a search function. It just says that your unique identity is located at the one single point in the field where your personal semantic energy signature is at its absolute peak. It's a spike of coherence in the field that is yours and yours alone. Okay, so you might be wondering, if everything's so stable and harmonious, how does a society ever change or grow? Well, it evolves through a process called transformative field resonance. This is a mechanism that lets the entire system adapt and change, but it does so in a way that always preserves its fundamental stability. Just imagine a civilization that could guarantee that every single step forward was actually progress, and never a step back toward chaos. So, there's the blueprint. It's actually pretty clear when you lay it out. You start with the fundamental physics, the KP field. You build a new kind of logic on top of that, one based on resonance. You anchor every individual in that system with an unforgeable physical identity. And then finally, you weave all these pillars together into the working, seamless fabrics of a new civilization. And all of this, taken together, brings us to the dawn of what they call the universum epoch. It's the foundation for a type of civilization whose highest laws aren't written down in books, but are encoded into the very geometry of reality itself. I mean, just listen to this closing line from the GILC Constitution. It really says everything. The rules of this system aren't some social agreement we can argue about or choose to ignore. They are a permanent, indelible part of the cosmic architecture. And in the end, that's the ultimate promise, isn't it? To finally move beyond all the friction, the waste, the entropy of our current models, and to build a civilization founded on one single, universal, physical principle: coherence.